1:24 a.m. March 18th, 1990. Two men in Boston Police Department uniforms walk up to the side entrance of a museum on the Fenway and press the buzzer. 81 minutes later, they drive away. Between those two moments, they steal 13 objects worth $500 million, the largest art theft in the history of civilization. And in the 36 years that follow, not one painting is recovered. Not one arrest is made. Not $1 of the $10 million reward is ever claimed. By the end of this story, you will know exactly who did it, exactly how it worked, and why, despite knowing all of that, the FBI still cannot bring the art home. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum is not a museum in the conventional sense. It is a mausoleum of obsession. Isabella Gardner was a New York heiress who spent 60 years of her life collecting some of the finest art in human history and built an entire Venetian palazzo in Boston to house it. When she died in 1924, her will contained a single, non-negotiable condition. Nothing in the museum could ever be moved, replaced, or altered. Not a painting, not a bowl, not a chair. Any violation would trigger the immediate dissolution of the museum and the sale of the entire collection to benefit Harvard University. The trustees obeyed. The building froze in 1924. Every object remained in its position for the next 66 years. Including the security system. In 1990, the Gardner Museum's internal security is a passive infrared motion sensor network that prints movement logs onto dot matrix paper at the front desk. It does not trigger an audible alarm. It does not auto-dial the police. It prints a paper record for a guard to read. There are no motion sensors inside the individual galleries, only in the corridors between them. The cameras cover entry points at low resolution, and the entire $500 million collection is protected after closing by two unarmed security guards, two unarmed men, and a paper printer. The question is not whether someone would try to rob this place. The question is why it took until 1990. George Reisfelder and Leonard de Muzio are not names that appear in art history books. They belong in a different kind of archive. Reisfelder is a Boston career criminal, a petty thief, an associate of Dorchester mob operator Carmelo Merlino. He has a prior murder acquittal in 1982, cleared only because his defense lawyer, a young Massachusetts attorney named John Kerry, secured his release on a technicality. De Muzio is cut from the same cloth: home invasions, small-scale crimes. Both men operate in the shadow economy of South Boston and Dorchester, where the currency of trust is determined by what you are willing to do and what you are willing to keep quiet. By the FBI's account, confirmed publicly in 2015 after years of investigation, it is these two men who drive a red Dodge Daytona hatchback to Palace Road in the early hours of March 18th. Both are dead before the year is out. Reisfelder dies of a drug overdose in September 1991. De Muzio follows shortly after. The case dies with them in terms of prosecution, but the machinery behind them, the chain of people who planned it, financed it, and tried to sell the art afterward, extends much further. And here is where it gets complicated, because Reisfelder and de Muzio do not appear to be the architects. They are the instruments. They are precise enough to know the museum's floor plan, which galleries contain the targets, and which sensor zones to navigate. Someone mapped this operation in advance. Someone identified the specific works. Someone understood but the Gardner's security was frozen 6 decades in the past. The identity of that someone, the mind behind the mechanics, remains the deepest unsolved layer of the case. But here's what they did know, and what they exploited with surgical clarity. March 17, 1990, is St. Patrick's Day in Boston. The city's Irish-American population celebrates with an intensity that would be difficult to overstate. The Boston Police Department is stretched to its absolute operational limit. Crowd management, drunk and disorderly calls, traffic accidents on the expressways. The radio frequencies are saturated. On a normal weeknight, a 911 call in the Fenway gets a response in under 10 minutes. On St. Patrick's Day weekend, that window stretches. Maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20, maybe longer. For two men who need an uninterrupted 81 minutes, that gap is everything. They prepare the uniforms first. Boston Police Department regulation dress, navy blue wool duty jacket, silver buttons, peaked 8-point cap, and a gold BPD shield badge mounted to the left breast. In 1990, none of these items require law enforcement credentials to purchase. They are available at uniform supply shops, theatrical costume houses, and surplus outlets across Massachusetts. Total cost for both men, somewhere between $100 and $200. $200 to become the highest authority in any room they enter. The psychological principle here is what researchers call authority bias. It is not a quirk. It is a deep neurological feature of human cognition. The human brain, when it perceives a symbol of legitimate authority, a uniform, a badge, a formal credential, suppresses its normal skepticism and triggers a compliance response. It is fast. It is automatic. It bypasses rational deliberation. Richard Abath, a 23-year-old night guard at the Gardner, will not ask himself whether the officers are real. His brain will tell him in under 1 second that they are real, because they look real, and that the correct behavior is to comply. The toolkit for the actual theft is even simpler. A roll of 2-inch polyethylene duct tape with a rubber adhesive backing, capable of around 90 ounces of peel resistance per inch of width. And an Olfa utility knife, a box cutter, a carbon steel retractable blade 18 millimeters wide and 2.5 inches long. Cost under $5. With this, they plan to cut through centuries. The targets are selected in advance. The Dutch room on the second floor holds the crown jewels. Rembrandt's The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, painted in 1633, his only known seascape, measuring 160 by 128 centimeters. A Lady and Gentleman in Black, also Rembrandt. A small self-portrait on oak panel, circa 1629. And in the same room, Vermeer's The Concert, circa 1664. There are 34 confirmed Vermeers in existence. This one is considered, by every major art historian, the single most valuable stolen painting in the world. Additional targets: 5 Degas works on paper in the short gallery, Manet's Chez Tortoni in the blue room, a Napoleonic bronze eagle finial, and a Shang dynasty bronze beaker dating to 1200 BCE. Total 13 objects. Conservative modern valuation $500 million. Everything is ready, except for one thing. To get those paintings off the wall without triggering the corridor sensors, they need to know the exact floor plan of a building that the public is only allowed to observe from designated viewing positions. Someone has been inside this museum before, possibly many times, possibly timing guard rotations, counting steps between galleries, mapping the sensor coverage. The preparation takes months. The execution takes 81 minutes. 1:24 a.m. The Dodge Daytona idles on Palace Road. The temperature is 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Freezing rain. The city is quiet now. The last of the St. Patrick's Day crowd is either home or in a holding cell. Reisfelder presses the intercom buzzer. Guard Richard Abath looks at the grainy CCTV monitor. 2 peaks of navy blue caps, a badge catching the light. An officer's voice. Responding to a disturbance call, need to check the courtyard. Abath's finger moves to the release button. He presses it. The 12-volt electromagnetic lock disengages. The door swings open. The thieves step inside. The taller man looks at Abath with measured calm. He tells him there may be an outstanding default warrant in his name. He asks for ID. He appears to key a radio. He does not. There is no radio call. There is no warrant. But the effect is instant and complete. Abath's mind collapses inward. He stops thinking about the Rembrandts upstairs and starts thinking about himself, about a warrant, about a lawyer, about what this means for him personally. That cognitive redirect is the real heist. Everything else is just carrying boxes. Come out from behind the desk. Abath steps away from the silent alarm button. The cuffs lock. The second guard, Randy Heston, comes down the marble staircase and walks directly into the same trap. 14 seconds. Both men restrained. Gentlemen, this is a robbery. Don't give us any problems. The tape comes out. Eyes covered, mouths sealed. Both men walk down the service stairs to the basement and chain to galvanized steam pipes in separate sections of the utility corridor, 40 feet apart, alone in the dark. They are told someone will call the police for them. They wait. The steam pipes hiss. 1:40 a.m., the Dutch room. The taller man lifts the Storm on the Sea of Galilee from the wall. It weighs approximately 50 pounds with its frame. He drops it face down onto the marble. The oak corner shatters. The box cutter comes out. The blade finds the edge between canvas and stretcher bar. He draws it along the linen. The sound is dry, tearing. The paint film is 357 years old. It is brittle in the way that crystals are brittle. Every inch of blade movement is causing damage that no conservator will ever fully reverse. The canvas rolls free. He places it in the bag. He does not pause. Lady and gentleman in black. Cut. The self-portrait on oak panel. No canvas to cut. He pries it from the frame directly. The Vermeer. Cut. 4 masterpieces in under 25 minutes. 2:20 a.m. The Short Gallery. The 5 Degas works on paper are lifted from their frames. The pastels, pure chalk pigment adhering to paper by friction alone, zero binding medium, are handled with bare covered gloves. The pigment is smearing. There is no way to stop this. They bag the drawings and move. The Blue Room. One of the men walks the perimeter of the room, staying close to the wainscoting rather than crossing the center. The motion sensor in the middle of the room does not trigger. The log at the front desk shows no entry for this room. Whether this path was deliberate knowledge of the sensor's position or pure coincidence is a question that FBI analysts will spend years unable to resolve. Manet's Chez Tortoni comes off the wall. The Napoleonic finial. The Shang dynasty beaker, 3,190 years old. lifted from a glass case with the same indifference as a paperweight. 2:41 a.m. One of them re-enters a gallery he has already cleared. The motion sensor logs it. The printer types. The reason is unknown. A forgotten object, a navigational mistake in the low light, a last-second decision. Whatever it is, it adds 4 minutes to the timeline and pushes their exit to 2:45 a.m. At 2:45 a.m., a marked Boston Police Department patrol cruiser turns onto Palace Road. 10 miles per hour, standard patrol speed. The officer inside scans the street ahead. The Gardner Museum's side entrance is open. A red Dodge Daytona sits at the curb. 2 men are moving between the open door and the vehicle with bags. This is the moment the whole plan should have ended. The cruiser moves forward at a steady 10 miles an hour. The officer's eyes stay ahead. On St. Patrick's Day weekend, 2 men loading a car at 3 in the morning does not clear the threshold. The tail lights disappear into the mist. The side door closes. The engine turns over. The car pulls away from the Fenway and dissolves into the Boston street grid. 81 minutes. $500 million. 8:15 a.m. The morning shift guard finds the front desk empty. He finds the motion log paper trailing off the printer in a long stream that nobody read. He hears muffled sounds from the basement. He finds both guards alive, restrained but unharmed, cold and disoriented after nearly 6 hours in the dark. The FBI takes jurisdiction by 9:30 a.m. Forensic teams process 13 empty frames. The Omega motion log tape is pulled and analyzed. It places the thieves precisely. It tells investigators every room they entered and when, except the blue room, which the log shows as empty. That absence becomes a clue that will generate more theories than answers. The reward is announced: $1 million, then $5 million, eventually $10 million. The largest private bounty ever offered for stolen property by any institution in the world. It has never been claimed. The investigation burns through 3 decades of leads. The FBI runs over 30,000 individual inquiries. They pursue the Patriarca family. They pursue Carmelo Merlino's crew. They pursue Robert Guarente, a mafia figure whose connections span Boston, Philadelphia, and Connecticut. They pursue Robert Gentile, a 70-something Connecticut antique dealer whose home is raided multiple times, whose yard is scanned with ground-penetrating radar, whose shed is demolished in the search for hidden compartments. Gentile is found with a handwritten list that appears to reference the Gardner works, alongside dollar valuations. He says nothing. He dies in August 2021 at the age of 82. In March 2013, on the exact 23rd anniversary of the theft, FBI Special Agent in Charge Richard Deslauriers stands before cameras and delivers the most significant public statement in the case's history. The Bureau believes it has identified the thieves. Both men are almost certainly dead. The art was transported to Connecticut and the Philadelphia region in the years after the theft. It was offered for sale in Philadelphia as recently as 2003. The FBI declines to release names. 2 years later, in 2015, the names come out anyway. George Reisfelder and Leonard DiMuzio, both dead within 12 months of the heist. Both confirmed by investigators as matching the police sketches. Both connected to the Merlino crew out of Dorchester. Both permanently beyond prosecution. The theft itself expired legally after 5 years. The statute of limitations ran out on March 18, 1995. Anyone living who participated in the robbery of the Gardner Museum cannot be charged with committing it. They can potentially face charges of transporting stolen property or conspiracy. But the act itself, the cut canvas, the broken glass, the 81 minutes, is legally untouchable. 3 theories exist about where the paintings are now. First, in private storage somewhere in the northeastern United States, held by a successor criminal organization as a financial instrument, collateral for deals that never quite close. Second, outside the country, moved through Irish Republican Army or European organized crime channels in the 1990s and hidden in a collection that surfaces only in legal darkness. Third, partially destroyed, not deliberately, but through the compounding damage of improper storage, humidity fluctuations, light exposure, the steady mechanical failure of improperly rolled canvas, leaving fragments of what were once masterpieces disintegrating in a room that smells like concrete and pipe rust. The empty frames still hang. Isabella Gardner's will has not bent. They cannot be moved, replaced, or covered. Every day the museum is open, visitors stand in front of them. Rectangular voids in the wallpaper, the precise dimensions of what was once there. The frame of The Storm on the Sea of Galilee measures roughly 180 by 148 centimeters when you include the gilt surround. Inside it, nothing. A slightly lighter patch of wall where the painting blocked the light for 92 years before Reisfelder dropped it on the floor. Somewhere, tonight, the canvas that Rembrandt painted in 1633, the only seascape he ever made, is in a room none of us will ever enter. If it still exists. If it has survived 36 years without climate control and without care. If the paint film is still bonded to the linen. If the image of 12 disciples in a storm is still visible on the surface of that brittle, darkening canvas. The FBI's Boston field office lists the case as active. The Gardner's website still shows the reward. The phone lines are still open. And the frames on Rembrandt's wall wait in the dark of the Dutch room every night, holding nothing, illuminated by nothing, answered by nothing. The most valuable nothing in the world. /en.wikipedia.org/wiki/Isabella_Stewart_Gardner_Museum_theft